Welcome to Shepherd's Digest. This is the Daily Edition. I'm Pastor Terry from River City Hope Church in Louisville, Kentucky, and this is the third episode in a new series titled Finding Hope at the End of Your Rope. In this series, we're talking about 3 ways that we can find hope when we've exhausted all of our other possibilities. The first way we've learned about from the previous episode is that we can find hope when we trust that God knows our problems. And the second point is this: when we trust God for His provision to meet our needs, it gives Him an opportunity to release our potential. In the Old Testament book of 2 Kings chapter 4, we read that the widow asked Elisha for help. He replied by asking her, "What do you have in your house?" She said she didn't have anything except a small jar of oil. Elisha promptly told her to go to all the neighbors and ask to borrow their empty jars, and he said, "Don't just ask for a few." Now, it would have been easy for Elisha to have said, "Okay, sister, you've suffered enough. The Lord is going to meet your need. Just go home and wait for Him to work." And instead of taking that course, the Lord chose to involve her in her own miracle. And then God did something really important to note here. First, God erased her faith by forcing her to admit what she didn't have. Then He expanded her faith by teaching her trust, humility, and obedience. The Lord erased the widow's faith in herself just by Elisha asking 2 questions. What do you need and what do you have? And by these 2 questions, she was made to see the size of her need and the smallness of her resources. She needed everything and she had so little. Often God will use the trials and heartaches and burdens of life to bring us to a place where we can honestly see our need and our own inability to meet it. I mean, think about it. As long as we think we can handle things, why should we look to the Lord? And why should we turn to Him with our questions if we have all the answers? But when we stop and honestly answer these 2 questions, what do you need and what do you have, we'll realize that we need far more than we'll ever be able to supply by ourselves. After God erased her faith in herself and her own abilities, He began the process of expanding her faith in His power to meet her need. So putting her trust in God to meet her needs, she borrowed the vessels and she and her sons did what Elisha told her to do. Looking at 2 Kings chapter 4, starting in verse 4, he gives her specific instructions on what to do next. He says, "Go inside, shut the door behind you and your sons, pour oil into all the jars, and as each is filled, put it to one side." So she left him. She shut the door behind her and her sons, and they brought the jars to her as she kept pouring. And when all the jars were full, she said to her son, "Bring me another one." But he replied, "There is not a jar left." Then the oil stopped flowing. You see, the widow did what Elisha told her to do, and then God showed up and did what He promised He would do. And there in the privacy of that home, they learned that God was all powerful, all willing, and able to meet every need. And just remember, when you're at the end of your rope, you've arrived at the beginning of seeing God really work. When you're at that place of total dependence on Him and you're ready to trust and obey in faith, God will come through for you time after time. If you haven't already, I'd encourage you to watch the full message of Finding Hope at the End of Your Rope on our church website, hope4rivercity.com, and on the videos page at shepherdsdigest.com. On the website, you'll see the social media links so you can find, follow, and like, or do whatever you do on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. I'm Pastor Terry Wright from River City Hope Church in Louisville, Kentucky. That's all for now. God bless you.